The event was held at the Northampton Society of Model Engineers track in Lower Delapre Park off London Road in Northampton on the 2nd and 3rd of July 2005. Northampton is easily accessed from any part of the country by road as it's close to the M1 North-South motorway and the A43 and A14 for travellers from the west or east of England. Last-minute preparations are underway as the start deadline draws near. The 5-inch gauge Speedy to the I.M.L.E.C design was mainly built from bar ends and scrap from the waste bin in the factory where James worked. Much of the loco was built before the wheel and cylinder castings were purchased, and it took 4 years to complete. Run number 1, James Brunning, has problems with his temporary water tank when he finds pinhole leaks in it.
Yeah, there's one there and one there. Cover them first.
Hold it steady. 12 more minutes, so you know what we can do. Press it on, we don't have any air gaps at all.
Well, you're only a back end, yes.
Yes, it is.
The boiler was built from copper and silver, soldered as to the drawings, except that the gunmetal bushes were fitted where the drawings called for fittings threaded into the copper. The valve gear is as designed by I.M.L.E.C rather than the modified version that has been used for passenger hauling on many occasions.
Shows the runtime, which you can see if you don't like yourself. Derailments extend your runtime and ultimately the time of derailments in case of any other drops them off. Hopefully that.
A member of the Scots Locomotive Society and the Guildford Model Engineering Society, James is a qualified production engineer who's worked on guns, underwater missiles, airliner undercarriages and lately diesel pumps.
Society of Model Engineers Limited, where we're hosting over 2 days, today and tomorrow, the 36th International Model Locomotive Efficiency Competition, known as IMLEC. Now we have a very full programme.
Now semi-retired, he is busier than ever working on the new railway at Ascot and the 7¼ Schools locomotive.
Oh, right, yeah. Just a bit of residual water. The steam came up and disappeared again. Rather strange.
More problems for James as he finds he has not put enough water into the boiler and has been unable to raise a head of steam. So he's decided to withdraw and hopes he can have a rerun later in the day.
Stupid thing here. Started up my fire on charcoal with only a minimal amount of water in the boiler, so we actually raised some steam and then it died. So before we realised we'd better do the right thing. So anyway, we've dropped the fire now and just waiting for it to cool a little bit before we get back to normal.
This locomotive, entered by Paul Collins, is a 5-inch gauge 442 tender locomotive believed to be based on the NER Atlantics. This locomotive will be driven by Les Pritchard, who is a seasoned and successful IMLEC campaigner, having won in 1983 and 1984 at Guildford and Bristol with his 5-inch gauge Royal Scot, and came second at Northampton in 1996 with Alan Baker's LNER B1.
Thin fire.
Les seems to be having problems with the amount of steam he can raise, but after a short stop he sorts things out and resumes his run.
Much more coal this year than
It's all dust, isn't it?
Yeah, very small, isn't it? Eh?
That's for the next one.
Well, you could have put water in, surely.
Yeah, but once you've done it, you can't. If you've dropped the other drop the fire, so once you've done that,
Mike Gibbs entered this model that was started in 1995 as a club project by 3 members of the Vauxhall MES. It was built over a period of 7 years using the Vauxhall Hobbies building workshop to do most of the work and their own workshops for the rest. It was finished painted in 2003 and won the prize for the best steam model in the Bedford Club exhibition in the same year. It is to the Martin Evans Springbok design with some modifications. Functional changes are a twin ram axle pump and a large capacity twin ram lubricator, and detail enhancements are 2 dummy Wakefield lubricators, an accurate shaped chimney and dome, opening cab windows using proper glass, and a scale shaped whistle. The driver, Paul Bexfield, has been a model engineer for 30 years and has built 2 locomotives, an American Type 460 and a Duchess 3.5-inch gauge, as well as contributing to this club locomotive.
Run number 3.
He's now building Columbia, an American 480 in 3.5-inch gauge. Paul has been a member of Bedford MES for 6 years and participates in some of their activities.
JB cutting tool.
Aileen was built to Curley's speedy design with Don Young valve gear in 1986. She was rebuilt and reboilered in 1995 with a 100 psi boiler, radiant superheating and modified drafting. New valve bobbins were made to alter the lead and lap, and a stainless steel arch was fitted to the firebox. Last year, a problem of wear in the left-hand steam chest led to a summer of valve gear problems.
No, you go beyond this round. Well, yeah.
Last year, he had some problems with wearing the left-hand steam chest. Led to a summer of valve gear problems.
IMLEC Kimber was a disaster. As a result, both valve gears have been totally overhauled with new bushes and die blocks, etc. The problem was cured by polishing 2 thou off the bobbin, which had been tight. This locomotive won IMLEC in 1999, the last time it was held at Northampton. This will be its 5th IMLEC, and it will run in the previous winners' competition. Jim Elliott started a 5-year engineering apprenticeship in 1965, worked for 10 years in the motorcycle trade, for 2 years in R&D in a refrigeration company, for 6 years in the Science Museum workshop, and for 10 years on marine and industrial diesel engines. At present he is building vintage Bugatti engines for a well-known restorer. He has been building a Midland Railways 422 Princess of Wales for the last 18 years and is not finished yet. His other interests include clocks, the Industrial Revolution, and reading about mind-boggling theories of the universe. A lift provides easy access down to the steaming bay. Britannia Coeur de Lion was built by Lionel Flippants in about 1983. He entered it in the 17th IMLEC in 1985 at Urmston and came second. Lionel re-entered it in 1986 at Bournemouth but was forced to retire. The present owner bought the locomotive in 1988, and when the IMLEC rules changed, he entered it in the 29th IMLEC at Llanelli in 1997 and came first. He also entered in 2002 at Leyland and was placed second. The locomotive will therefore be running at Northampton in the previous winners' competition.
Yeah, well, I'm staying with
Len Steele has been a model engineer since the age of 16. He's a member of Guildford, Cardiff, Llanelli, Swanage and Steam model engineering clubs. He's been attending IMLEC since meeting Lionel Flippants. Charles is a 3.5-inch model of an 040 Hunslet, the original of which is in the Penrhyn Castle Museum in North Wales.
this competition takes place.
Nice run then, thank you. Did you get a ride?
Did you get one?
Alan bought the chassis at a club sale 9 years ago and had to rework most of it to make it functional and correct machining errors. Completion of the rest of the model was greatly helped by the loan of photographs of the original. Among the modifications to the original design is a combined spark arrestor and exhaust oil separator described in Model Engineer in February 2001. The Loco ran in I.M.L.E.C at Leeds in 2002 and was placed 11th overall, coming second in the 3.5-inch class. Alan Bibby took early retirement in 1993 from Leyland Motors and its successors after 40 years serving in various capacities. He has built a Lion, which he entered in the last I.M.L.E.C at Northampton, a Princess Marina, Charles and a Romulus, as well as an Allchin traction engine and various machine tools and IC and steam engines. He is a member of the Leyland Club and works voluntarily for the Institute of Mechanical Engineers, OLCO, the Ramblers Association, and produces the Northern Association of Model Engineers newsletter. Other interests include photography, video, computing, walking and travel. A number of well-known suppliers of model engineering materials had been invited to set up their stands, and they all appeared to be doing good business. There was also a display of a variety of model engineering projects that had been undertaken by the host club.
Today's running are behind the tower here on the boards behind me, so if you're interested in the time set today at all, the details are there.
It's believed that the LNER B1 to the Martin Evans Springbok design was made by Peter Hodgson of Dorking. Mike Honeybun purchased the Loco at auction in October 2003 with some parts missing, which he has replaced. The Loco is well travelled, having run at the Sinheim exhibition in Germany earlier this year and recently at the Delorme Steam Festival in France.
Hey, close, Izzy, go on. You ready? We'll put this one on. I lost my first one. Yeah. Completely and absolutely. That was smooth.
Mike joined the Gravesend Model Marine and Engineering Society about 5 years ago. He is constructing a 5-inch Jubilee and has an ongoing project to rebuild a Gresley 280 loco which he acquired in Africa. He's been in marine and power station construction for most of his working life, but now has a project in France.
Tools and inserts. And Reeds 2000, suppliers of model engineering. Can't miss the big white.
Garth Hall was designed and built by Tom Curry and took over 10 years of his spare time to complete. Stephen Coles has been the lucky owner for 3 years, which so far has been maintenance free.
Well, run number 7 just completed. Mike Honeyman, successful run there. Just being in trouble with the carriage dynometer. Not a volunteer for a competition run. Preparations are going on to the receiving area to be in video today. And they're going to be available through the IMLEC video, care of Mr. Tomlinson here in Northampton.
This will be Stephen's 3rd year at IMLEC with Garth Hall, but the first year that he will drive the locomotive himself. He did drive at last year's event, taking the controls of Arthur Eves' LNER A2 Blue Steel. Arthur has been Steve's mentor in the hobby.
Well, run number 8 is just starting. Oh, here comes Steve, managed to get back on the track.
Throughout the day, preparations were underway for the pig roast social get-together planned for the evening.
Well, Steve Cole's run number 8 is about halfway through his run, just over halfway through his run now.
George Golightly is no stranger in model engineering circles and has entered IMLEC on his own account on quite a few occasions, most recently in 2003 at Bristol when he finished 8th with his Royal Scot. The locomotive is a 5-inch simplex to the Martin Evans design, which was owned by the late John Golightly. For 15 years it sat on a coffee table and was used as a plant pot holder.
Straight through on that.
Yeah, it should do, yeah.
Well, run number 8.
Well, you can take some people off and pitch the lap.
Stephen has run into problems and has to lose some passengers to complete his run.
Driven by Mary Nachman.
Mary Nachman was taught to drive by her uncle, George Golightly, at the age of 13. This is her first attempt at IMLEC. The original owner of the Simplex, John Golightly, wanted her to drive it in last year's IMLEC at Kinver, but she didn't feel confident enough. He's recently passed away, and Mary is determined to drive at this year's IMLEC in his memory. The A1 Peppercorn Pacific Alcazar in post-1948 BR Blue livery is built to the M.L. Breeze design with various modifications, mainly to the boiler, which has a large combustion chamber and cross tubes. The engine has a heating surface of 760 square inches and a grate area of 46 square inches. It is fitted with steam brakes and vacuum brakes to the tender. Front and rear dampers are fitted, which can be controlled from the cab. It has two injectors and a fitted axle pump and PTFE rings to the pistons and piston valves. No extra ballast is fitted. What you see is what you get. The engine was built over a 4-year period, and many of the castings, including the wheels, are from the builder's own patterns. Dave Gregson began model engineering at the tender age of 11 years. His first engine was a Stewart beam engine based on castings purchased from Bassett Loke for £3.19 and twopence, paid for by delivering papers. He bought his first lathe when he began work at the age of 15. Dave has built numerous stationary engines and is currently building his 6th locomotive, a 5-inch gauge Royal Scot. He has been model engineering for 46 years, and if he had £1 for every hour spent on the hobby, he would be a rich man. Dave has been a member of Leyland SME for 34 years and is very passionate about the hobby, which has been a large part of his life over the years. This will be his 7th attempt at IMLEC, the first one being at Leeds SME in 1986. He enjoys the competitive event and meeting up with his old friends, as this is a great hobby and model engineers are a great bunch of people. IMLEC is a good fun weekend which Dave looks forward to.
Testing it out at the moment. As long as there's
Paul Tompkins' 5-inch gauge Somerset and Dorset 7F 280 is based on the Martin Evans Ivo Peters design with some modifications designed by Paul. These include oversized frame stretches to increase the weight for improved adhesion and a simplified suspension and axle box. The locomotive has not been built exactly to scale, but more as a working model. It is fitted with a boiler built by Steel. It's recently been rebuilt because of an accident last August where a coupling rod retaining pin worked loose, causing the coupling rod to foul the crosshead, causing quite a bit of damage and a major derailment.
If you find yourself in a loose end between the runs, why not pay a visit to the exhibitors at the bottom of the park. There are several visiting suppliers selling various model engineering supplies.
In rebuilding, Paul stripped the loco completely this February. He was inspired by Mr. J, making a brand new set of driving wheels out of solid steel rather than castings, as the old wheels were nowhere near those a true 7F would have had. Also, steel helps adhesion. He gave the cylinders a thorough going over, increasing the size of the passages to help get steam in and out quicker. The valve gear has received attention, reducing the lead from 35 thou to 5 thou in the hope of this being more efficient. A new way of holding the coupling rods to the crank pins has been put in place using a similar idea to that of the 5-inch Britannia. The A bogie had to be rebuilt as it was ripped off in the accident, with the bogie wheels needing steel tyres to replace the fractured cast iron treads. All the suspension had to be remade, this time with 2 short springs for each axle box instead of one long one. And finally the cab was ruined in the accident and was embarrassingly out of scale, so he has made a new cab from photos of the full-size versions. The tender frames were very badly bent and needed to be rejigged, and a stronger loco tender coupling has been made as the old one was sheared off. It looks much more like a real 7F and has been repainted in lined out SDJR blue and renumbered 88. At 26 years old, Paul is one of the younger members of the fraternity, but he has more experience of IMLEC than most, as this will be his 10th consecutive entry. His best placed finish was in 2002 when he finished second with the family Minx, but he also holds the distinction of being the only person to finish last twice. Paul works in engineering as a toolmaker and is a member of Guildford MES thanks to his uncle Dave, who first took him there when he was a toddler. He is now very lucky to have his own very well equipped workshop where he is currently building 3 5-inch gauge Britannias based on the Perrier drawings, but with a lot of his own CAD drawings and advice from Steel.
is difficult. There's no fight, go down.
Paul Pavia has owned Linden Manor for 8 months. It was built by a member of Sale MES. It runs well but could do with a new paint job. Paul Pavia has entered IMLEC 3 times with his own locomotives and twice with Frank Nixon's engines. He achieved the Best 3.5-inch award in 1994 at Gravesend with LBSC's Bantam Cot. This year, after much coaxing, he has decided to give his son Ben a go with Linden Manor. Ben Pavia has watched his father do all the driving for years, so as it's his 21st birthday on Sunday the 3rd of July, he has been asked to take the regulator and have a go at this year's IMLEC competition.
Meanwhile, road number 11 has finished. Paul Thompson has reached his last stopping point at the station. Display the large marquee down there. There are some trains flying. Down the bottom of the field, any large sheets of metal or anything like that, please let us know.
He has been asked to take the regulator and have a go at this year's IMLEC competition. So I'm sure we wish Ben all the very best on his 21st tomorrow. And that's how it gets off on his very nice lap.
The second 3.5-inch locomotive to enter this year's competition, a black 460 to the LBSC Doris design, it was built by Brian between 1987 and 1990. Brian Eatock is a member of the Chesterfield and District Model Engineering Society. Now 73, he has been a model engineer for 15 years, and as well as Doris has built a Rob Roy, a Mini and a 2-inch scale Foden steam lorry.
Well, run number 12.
Our ground level track was in operation from 10 o'clock to 5 o'clock on both days, offering rides on the track, which is 1,700 feet long and winds its way through trees at the far end of the park. John Richardson acquired the LBSC designed 440 made of Kent as a part-built chassis which he completed and painted light olive green with the number 753 in 2002. It is a model of the Southern Region L1 class, and unlike the other Maid of Kent entered, it is the inside cylinder version with Joy valve gear. The Delapre firebox boiler is fed by 2 injectors and a hand pump, and it is John's 8th completed loco. The Model Engineer series, describing Maid of Kent, ran concurrently with the series on the 060 Minx in 1948-49, and the two designs shared many common parts. John's Minx has been running since 1974, and he is one of the few people to have built the pair.
Round number 14 is underway. John Richardson.
John Richardson is a retired machine tool engineer who's been building miniature locomotives since 1969 and is currently on his 9th, a large boilered GN Atlantic. Previous locos range from a simple Crampton, which he entered in the 1999 I.M.L.E.C at Northampton, to LNER A4 Pacifics. He has entered 4 previous I.M.L.E.Cs with modest success. John is a member of the Brighouse and Halifax Model Engineers and is an enthusiastic rally participant. The second of 2 locos entered by Paul Collins is a 3.5-inch gauge model of the Manning-Wardle 262 tank locomotive Lou of the Linton and Barnstable Railway, built to the Les Warnett design. Paul is a member of the Harlington Locomotive Society and an I.M.L.E.C novice, though he has competed in and enjoyed club locomotive efficiency competitions.
Raised sanitation. Paul is a member of the Harlington Locomotive Society and an in-depth knowledge of early locomotive efficiency competition. So that's Paul Collins with his 3.5-inch gauge model, Blue.
Oh, right, okay.
Right now, Paul Collins.
The last run of Saturday was the rerun James Brunning, who had problems when he was due to be the first competitor of the day.
The valve gear is designed by LBMC rather than the modified version. We were to do the first run this morning, but
couldn't get to it right.
James Brunning is starting to run. For this run is Richardson.
Noel Shelley of Ringstead Foundry Kings Lynn gave a demonstration using his portable gas furnace.
Into it to be able to allow the metal to feed in.
James Brunning finishes his run.
There's a lot standing around the bottom of the firebox. I'm a bit of a dirty fire. Brilliant. It's lovely.
It looks a good run.
At last, here we are at last. Very happy now, no problem whatsoever. It's worth waiting for that, wasn't it?
A social evening with a pig roast with plated meals and pork baps were available, along with a bar serving a range of beverages.